Yo, yo, yo! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Brothers in Arms, a new way for men to talk. I am your host, comedian Edgar Rivera, and I am joined today by my brothers, Dr. Dan Radner and comedian Eric Nieves. What's up, brothers?
Good to see you, Edgar.
To see
Dr.
you.
Dan and Edgar in the house. How's everybody?
We good, man. We good. I always say, what's up, brothers? And I look at both of you to see what they're going to do. Because both of you, we still haven't talked about it.
You know why that is? It's because Eric and I are, all three of us are very considerate people. But you turn things over to me and Eric. We're both like, I don't want to step on your toes. No.
Yeah, like I don't want to be the one that, that person that talks too much at the party and everybody's like, yo, shut the fuck up. What happened?
You know what? And then I also feel like, I also don't want to be the guy who just sits there and puts all the pressure on Eric to answer. So then we're like, what do we do here?
I don't know, Dr. Dan, when you do these Zooms, do you look at yourself or do you look at the screen? Are you looking at me right now as I'm talking or are you looking at the camera?
It's hard for me to not look at the face I'm talking to. So what I do, and I learned this from you, is I just shrink the Zoom really small, so you're all there. We're all there. We're all bunched up together. But I'm basically looking at you.
I'm looking into your soul.
Eric looks at the camera. Eric just goes right. Eric's like this.
Well, of course, I look mostly at the camera because, I don't have the same setup as you because you guys are fancy. I'm in the Bronx. I live in even though, Edgar, I know your apartment is not that easy to set it up either. I know you got a difficult setup. But this is the only way I could do it. So it's either this or it's this all the time. I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? That's just, that would be a disturbing show. You know what I mean?
When you can see the top of the white.
You gotta express your feelings. And all of a sudden I'm looking this way. You know what? We'll starting next show because I think we've done enough to build a good chemistry. When you bring us in, Edgar, between Dr. Dan, you and I need to figure out who's going to be the one that goes first.
Yep.
We can't do double Dutch no more. We've been doing double Dutch for about 18, 19 episodes where we're like, oh, I don't know.
We got
so, we need to. And I think, honestly, you should go first, Dr. Dan, because you're always going to have something smarter to say.
Well, that is sweet of you to say. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm happy I'll go first. I'm a team player, I am.
I think we should have a poll. That's how you get people involved.
Have
if you're
poll?
listening or viewing, who should go first? When I say what's up, brothers, should Dr. Dan answer first or should Eric answer first? Comment down below. Because Eric thinks
how
Dr.
Andy
Dan...
Kaufman got kicked off Saturday Night Live in 1970, it's like 75 or 76.
From a poll?
Yeah, Lorne Michaels, he was not getting along with Andy Kaufman at the time, so he goes on national TV on SNL and he goes, you all can choose if we keep or fire Andy Kaufman. Call this number if you want to keep Andy, and call this number if we should fire Andy. And it was overwhelmingly fire Andy Kaufman. So yeah, they threw him off the show. He never went back on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't
Not
know that
a very
either.
brothers.
So I hope I don't get the responses like I really suck. Stop looking at the fucking camera, you bug-eyed bastard. Get off my show.
We should be careful what we ask.
All right, hold on. Let me make some eye contact. All right, I feel better. It's all about screen location.
I got to give you credit. I got to give you credit, Eric, because I'm like Dr. Dan. I'm looking at you guys now. I'll do the same thing. I'll shrink you guys so we could.
Well, I
so
can
the
see
eyes
you. You just went like this.
So the
it's
eyes won't be all over the place. Because if I put you here and I put Dr. Dan here, and then it's like you're doing this, so you're trying to minimize that. But I got to give it to you because it's very hard just to look at a camera. Can you imagine just looking at the camera and like?
No, well, I mean, because I look at the light behind the camera. I look at. I'll look down a little bit as if I'm thinking about something. I really just treat it as if I'm having a conversation with someone. Now, if you look at the earlier episodes, I was like this. Okay? I was afraid to move my head, and this was it. This was the whole time. And it was a dark room, so I looked like I was stalking the two of you talking about your emotions. Like,
you look like he was. He looked like he was in Afghanistan waiting for the interview.
Yeah, like I was waiting for SEAL team to come get me. Like, oh, please listen. You need to send Bravo 1. Please send Bravo 1. You know what I mean? So remember the first show? I didn't even have a light. I had like a little desk light. At least you guys could be seen. I literally looked like I was a shadow just talking from the background. That's what I was.
Like you were in witness protection or something.
I really was like, I really had to protect my identity to talk about my emotions. So I decided to just go in a dark room. It's like, you need lights, Eric. It's about expression. So I was like, all right, okay. All right, I'll get some lights.
How are you, Dr. Dan? How was your week?
It was good as usual. A total blur. I'm excited about a lot of things. My daughter got her first COVID vaccine. It just feels, and my youngest, my oldest one, has had it for a while now. It just feels like we're maybe getting into a new era of being able to relax just a bit more. Obviously we're taking it very seriously, but like that makes a world of difference.
I'm knock on wood, bro.
Nice. Yep. He knocked on his head. What about you, Eric, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I got another wedding to go to soon. So I feel bad for my cousin. Both of his kids got married within 5 months. Like, that's messed up. And to all the kids out there and to Dr. Dan's daughters, when y'all grow up, spread it out, yo. Even if you're in love the same year, spread it out. Don't do it to Dan, okay? It's not just the bills, it's the emotion. My cousin is fucked up, okay? He just got over the first one, and all of a sudden he's got to go through the second one. Spread it out, kids.
Be considerate with your love.
Thank you, and the budget, please.
And the budget. That's good, man. Well, I mean, at least you're going away. You're going to Florida.
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm excited about that.
There you go. I'm excited as well, man. It's been a good week. I'm going away next week to actually do comedy, so I feel like I'm getting back out there, back to work, so I'm very excited. I'm going to be in New York. Pennsylvania, I'm going to be in Pennsylvania with Eric, so I'm working with Eric again. It's been a minute, Eric, right? We don't work together, right?
Yeah, it's been way too long. I think it was like maybe not this last summer, the summer before that.
2019, yes, man. So it's been a minute. So I'm actually looking forward to that, and and happy, man. Looking forward to the holidays, getting ready for the holidays, and ending this year. And hopefully next year will be a way better year for all of us, And Eric could see himself, and you don't have to look at the camera no more.
I could see myself just fine.
So with that being said, man, let's get into this wonderful episode. Dr. Dan, bring us in.
All right, it's time for old news, maybe from yesterday.
That's right, because it's only old news because we didn't talk about it until today. We're going to talk about today men and sports and emotions, because where's the one place that men could be emotionally expressive? It's during a sports game, right? That's the only time you'll see men physically cry. You'll see men, root for each other, give each other hugs, just total strangers. Men will hug total strangers during sports games. And, it could be interesting how men could be so emotional in a sporting event and not emotional in other areas of their life. And that could be looked at as a negative thing. And we could probably spread that sports emotions to other parts of our lives. But we should also recognize that for men, it's sometimes the only place we're allowed to express emotions, where we don't lose our perceived masculinity when we express our emotions. It could be the one place where we had our first memories with our fathers because it was over a sports game, or it actually gives men a chance to get together without their partners, to gather around a sporting event and kind of talk about other things, but base it around the sporting event. So while I really do think that we could use that emotional spectrum that we showed for sports and apply it to other areas in our life and just be free. But I also think we need to recognize that there is some positive aspects to sports and the emotions that men feel in sports, and sometimes that's the only outlet that they have.
I also just think there's something that we can learn from it, and they're questions that I have. Like, I found myself wondering as you were saying this, and as we've thought about it in the past, I was like, well, why is that? I mean, it really is true, 100%, with myself as well. Now, there are times where I feel like I can show emotion. If I'm, let's say I'm doing a therapy session and I'm feeling for somebody, if I tear up during that time, that's totally appropriate in a whole other way. But I do wonder, why is it so much more comfortable for guys to show their emotions of all kinds during a sporting event? Edgar, I know you're not a huge sports guy, but you still understand this concept. I wonder what you think about this.
I just think it's easier for them to show their emotion because it's not really personal. It's not coming from within. So it's like we're hanging out, we at a sports bar, we at a game, we're watching whatever. So if we all sharing our emotions in that way, so I think for a guy in that environment, it'll be easier because we are all feeling the same way at the same time.
That's actually that's a brilliant way of looking at it, and I think I have thought about it that way in some way, but that sheds some light on something, and I think you're hitting on a point. It's like we can get emotional about something. It's not personal. but we can channel all of our personal emotion to it. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, I'm a sports fan and I'm from Cleveland, and we've had a lot of heartbreak in our day, but
That just made me emotional.
there you go.
What, the fact that he lives in Cleveland?
Yes.
Does that break your heart? I mean, did you not know this before?
For the sports
episode
things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
16?
I'm just gonna give a little shout out to Cleveland here, because I used to get upset when people didn't like it here, and now I'm just like, good. That's good. I'm glad you guys don't like it. We'll enjoy this awesome place ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to sports, we had a lot of suffering, but I do have to say there were times where I would channel that sadness that I had for other things there. I wasn't doing it consciously, but like I'd look at it and be like, things are so unfair. Why does it always go the wrong way? That's capturing something that was a part of me personally, but I'm getting to play it out in a non-personal way. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head, Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean,
I have to disagree a little bit in that, when you said that it's not personal, I think it's more of what you were saying, Dan. It's the only place where emotions can be shown and they won't be judged in a negative way, because that seems to be an arena where it's allowed for men. If you're hanging out with a bunch of dudes watching a game, the guys aren't crying because their team lost. I think the guys are crying because they've been holding it in the whole time, and they finally have a place where they could actually cry and hug their friends and all this stuff. I just think that's why men build man caves, so they could have places to go hang out with their dudes. You know what I mean? So I think that sports, I understand that it's not about them, but I think it's because it's the only place they can do it. It's like in Prohibition, they had to sneak alcohol underwear, sneak underground to drink alcohol because it was banned everywhere. If they feel like they can express emotion anywhere, don't you think that it, like you said, it becomes just a vessel to just pour out their own emotions under the guise that it's about the game?
It's funny, as you were speaking, though, I just understood something that I've never really put together. And it came from something you just said, Eric. I think there's also a great comfort in the fact that we're in it together. It is hugely emotional. It's not fake emotion, but we're in it together. It's not just personal to me. It's personal to us. And that group feeling, I think, is incredibly relaxing and kind of opens the doors to, I guess, having a personal experience, but one that's shared, so you're not so exposed.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't mean it like not personal, like it doesn't matter and it's not important to them. I just feel like, well, how come we as men could go to a stadium and watch a game and cheer and cry and be all emotional about it, but just about that particular situation? But then you won't talk about what you were dealing with at home. You won't talk about what you're dealing with your wife, your kids, the drama at work. But you could share your emotions that way. How come why is it easier to do it that than to talk about what's really bothering you inside? You know what I'm saying? Like as you were talking, I was thinking of other places. Like you said, okay, a sports game, it will be a place where a man will show his emotions. But what other places are out there that men will really be vulnerable and show their emotions? I think hospitals, when you're, family members, somebody you're about to lose someone, that's an environment where you're not afraid to show your emotions. Some people might even say church.
I think it's about the perceived acceptance of expressing that emotion. Exactly. I think it's if they know they'll be accepted if it's in a hospital. They know it's accepted in a sporting event. They know it's expected at weddings. There's certain things that if cry, it's because you're just not a crier and nothing's going to make you cry. It's just, some people are wired that way, and that's okay. But, to talk about talk about other stuff openly, it's not they don't perceive it as being as accepted, at least from a male perspective, that it won't be seen as a masculine act. And, anything that's perceived as what we term as a masculine act, if it's not seen as a masculine act, then we might be perceived as less of a man. I'm just saying, I'm projecting how guys could think, because at a sports game I could cry. I can't cry if I'm talking about my job with my best friend because I don't want to show him I'm upset. It doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that they're not feeling the emotion. They just don't think it's going to be accepted.
I think you're hitting on something important, Eric. I think that expectations are important in many ways, but one of the ways it's important is that I'm kind of speaking for myself here, but I wonder if other people feel this too. If I don't have the expectation as a man, I go in a little bit guarded against that sort of thing. It's like I have a mindset where I'm just like, that is never going to happen. But if there is a situation, like at my cousin's funeral, it was wide open for that. And I didn't go in protected at all. I was like, I didn't know if I would or I wouldn't. But I was giving a speech and I did. And I don't cry very often. But when I do, it's partly because I've already gotten into the mindset. I'm already open to that mindset. So I just want to point this out because this is something that could be helpful for a lot of people to think about. As men, I think our default setting, at least at a certain point, is the whole boys don't cry kind of thing. Shout out to The Cure. I don't know if you guys even know that band. You probably do. There we go. Eric knows it. Do you know that, Edgar?
Hell no.
He's thinking Hillary Swank.
Well, that was a good movie, but
that was a great movie. Great movie.
I think that there's also like boys of a certain age at a certain point. I know I just shut it off. I was like, okay, I will never cry in a situation where it's not appropriate. It's just so interesting where it is appropriate and where it isn't.
Well, I mean, like since little boys, when you got hurt, you walk it off. Little girls get their injuries tended to. Just, we're taught crying is not a good thing early on. So by the time we get to the point where we want to cry about something, it's easy to see why we would think, I'm doing something wrong. I was told that crying is not something men do.
Well, let me ask a question. Why do you think we're taught that? Like, where did that come from?
It's interesting. I mean, I think it's generational. I think that, obviously as every generation evolves, I think this younger generation, guys are much more emotionally expressive than they are in our generation or even the generation that is just behind us. I mean,
I think
they're far more open with a lot more things. You know what I mean? I just think that, I think time changes. I think the perception of what is masculine and what is feminine is not as divided as it once was, not as clearly defined, because I think that, we were kind of stuck in what is considered masculine, what is considered feminine, and I think hopefully we'll get to the point in what's just considered human. Yeah, with the point you made, Dan, to me was amazing. We walk in with our guard up to situations that prevent us from showing our emotions. You talked about you went in with your guard down. You know what I mean? How can we get to the point where we're always walking with our guard down, that we don't need to feel to protect ourselves from being emotional? Because we're emotional beings. We should be comfortable expressing it.
I think this relates to what we talked about, last time about the importance of kindness. Because if we bring the importance of kindness into kind of the center of things, then people will start to assume it is actually okay more often. And it will take time. But I think it really is an important point, how often we have our guard up and how do we get it down. I think kindness is one of those ways, because people don't realize if you put yourself out on the line and somebody's not kind about it, that person could shut down for like a decade. I'm not even joking. I mean, I'm a therapist, so I know these things. People can shut down from that one thing for like a decade because they're like, I'm not going to be humiliated like that again. No. And so they always go in with their guard up.
Yeah. Going back to your question, Dr. Dan, I think for me it's being a Latino and how Latino men have this stereotype that you got to be tough. Like Eric, I'm pretty sure you could relate. You got to be tough. You got to be strong. As a kid, I remember seeing my father cry just a couple of times, and he was tough. So my question to you as Dr. Dan, since we're, different culture, did you hear this as when you were growing up as a kid? Did they tell you this? Did they tell you you're not supposed to cry? Crying is for little girls. Did you ever hear that in growing up?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I heard it like in my culture or in my family, but it still was everywhere. I mean, you see it in shows. You'd see it at school. I mean, if you were paying attention at all, you knew. And meanwhile, people had the experience, and the interesting thing is you could have the experience whether somebody says something to you or not. You can still feel humiliated just inside yourself. Like, I don't know, there seems to be something just within the male DNA that's just kind of like, be careful about showing vulnerability somehow. It's weird because I I really did not get that message in any direct sort of way from any place that I can think of. But at the same time, I got the message very, very clearly, generally speaking. And I just wasn't going to go there.
Did you get that message, Eric? Did you hear that growing up?
Yeah, because I cried a lot as a kid, so I always heard it. I was always an overly sensitive kid. So yeah, you know, it's the irony because about Latinos that go, and I think you'll agree with me on this, right? On the one aspect, they're supposed to be tough as nails, nothing rattles them, and yet you couldn't find a more passionate, emotionally expressive human being in other areas of life than Latino men. The way we dance, the way we love, the way we eat. It's like
it's right there on your sleeve.
Yeah, it's like it's just so weird. In certain areas, it's like they choose when to become stone, and then when to be just this passionate, just fireball. You know what I mean? It was interesting to see both. I think it is. I don't think it's cultural. I think it's more pronounced in certain cultures, but I think I think it's across the whole world. You know, boys don't cry. I think it doesn't matter what your background is. If you grew up thinking that's supposed to be the right thing. And I'm not saying, don't cry for no reason. Just don't walk around crying. I'm not saying just the act of crying is something we should attain for, right, Dan? You're a doctor. You should not be seeking to just walk around and go bursting into tears
No, we don't,
as you're
we don't
walking
need
down
it.
the street. But if you feel it, then you should do it. Don't force it. Don't seek it out. Don't make it an event to show somebody you're feeling something, because then that's acting. If you feel it, express it. That to me is the thing with crime.
Let me bring something in that I just wonder about. I don't know if this is the case, but sometimes we carry things out in our culture because of what I would call generational trauma. And that basically means we are passing on certain ideas and certain experiences one generation after the next. I think that the whole boys don't cry thing is a generational trauma kind of thing. Or at least it's a theory I have going here as we're thinking about it. Because the fact that it transcends all different cultures, it speaks to something, and it makes me think that actually in a way we're teaching boys that almost to protect them. Like knowing, hey, listen, not that there's anything wrong with it, but just be careful with it. You could get teased. You could get picked on. I mean, I do think there's like a kind of almost protective element that we've put into place. And now we've got to work against that protective element. It's exactly what we're doing here with how to talk or being kind. We're breaking that open and saying, we talk about breaking the mold. It shouldn't be breaking the mold, but it's been set up that way because, listen, I find that, in the kind of evolutionary world we live in, there can be a lot of aggression coming everybody's way. If you see a little boy who's crying all the time, they're in a bit of danger, I think. And I wonder what kind of messages we end up sending to those boys. For me, like Eric, I would say I was a pretty sensitive kid. I wasn't sensitive in terms of crying all the time necessarily, but it was very clear that I was empathic. I was thinking in a way that was different than a lot of boys. I think at some level I knew instinctively, don't go there. You'll get hurt in some way. You'll get attacked in some way. And I think we were getting that message everywhere. I think we got to break that message. We really have to break that open and challenge that idea. And to do that, I think we have to be really strong in our message about the fact that it's not just that there's nothing wrong with it. We have to recognize that we have assumed that the people who are doing it are going to get attacked when they shouldn't. If anything, we need to jump in and say, what are you doing? You're doing that generational trauma stuff. We need to stop that.
Well, I feel like I'm just like Eric. I mean, I cry. For years, I'm well connected with my emotions. If I'm talking from something that's from inside, I could show my emotions. And for years, I hid that. And that's the hardest thing in the world, to hide those emotions, to hide that emotion of having to cry and like having to like hold it back, And I know men who have cried and get mad. You ever seen this? Like a guy who show his emotion and then he's freaking upset about it. Like don't talk to me because he's crying. He doesn't know how to freaking handle this shit. He's like, oh my God, what are these tears? Get away from me. And it's like he's almost embarrassed. And then I look at people and I feel like bad for those people. Like, why are you holding it now? I mean, now in this day, I mean, I don't care. I really don't care. I can tell you guys honestly, there's days that I feel like crying. I don't know if you guys ever had this, Eric. Like, there's days that I feel like crying just out of nowhere. Just it makes me feel better.
Shit. Every Sunday when the Jets play.
Yes, and I feel
every my team's so bad it made a Ted Lasso reference. That's how bad my team is when they asked, what do they call it in America when a team don't play well? The New York Jets. Well, it's funny, Edgar. The way you said it, I think the thing is, men. A lot of people don't understand. Everyone feels emotion. It's how they express it is the only difference on the planet. We all have the emotions, right? But you said you had to hide it and suck it in, and that had to hurt. That had to be tough. You know what I mean? On the flip side, I understand that why my stepfather said, boys don't cry, tough up, because like Dan said, I didn't want to get beat up by 3 or 4 kids in school because I had my emotions on my sleeve. So in some cases, it's almost like a defense mechanism. You have to keep it in check until you're in a safe place where it's okay to be yourself. And that's why I think sports is such a safe haven for guys, because that's one of the places that no one can dispute, that you could be as emotional as you want to be, and there'll be no judgment for it.
This is the reason why we are all here. This is the reason, to teach men out there that it's okay to let it out. It's okay to express your emotions, I got a question for you, Dr. Dan. Why is it so hard for us to show our emotions? Why can we walk into a game and cry over a baseball game, but not cry on your daughter's wedding or on your kid's birthday or on some important shit? You hide everything. Why is it so easy to do it there, and why is it so hard for us to open up to one another?
Well, first of all, and I was thinking about this as both of you were talking, you guys kind of combined to make a certain point that I wanted to note. And essentially it is that we have certain emotions that are totally sanctioned. Like nobody looks at a guy who gets angry and thinks like, oh, that guy is like a weakling or something like that. It's quite the opposite. People are like, oh yeah, that's a strong guy. But I think that we're valuing, it's a really interesting thing. I like what you said, Eric, about how we all actually just have these emotions. They're all inside us. And I was thinking about this in relation to what you were saying, Edgar, about how a guy can cry and they get angry about it. Men are always gravitating towards, okay, we've got a default setting of don't cry. We also have a default setting of, you can get angry. You can always get angry as a guy. That's a way to safely be emotional. And I think around sports, that's part of it. Sports are aggressive in nature in a certain way. So I think they're lending them, that forum lends itself to the process of this kind of guard being down. Yeah, I'm already emotional about it. I'm going in. I want my team. I don't want the other team to win. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a ready-made setup for emotion. Now, sometimes crying will sneak in there, and we're okay with it because we're okay saying this is an emotional setup. But if you think about it, it's kind of funny in a way that we're giving ourselves permission there, but we're not giving ourselves permission at our daughter's wedding or something like that. I think ultimately it comes down to the fact that we are very, very caught up on what is everybody else going to think and what is everybody else going to do. And one of the things that I like to help people with in my mind body work is to connect with their relationship with themselves and keep everybody else out of it a little bit. We've got to have a little bit more of that so that you can decide, you know what? And I have this now, I feel like a lot more. I feel like I have my guard down in general less because I have a better relationship with me. It's not the way that people tend to think about these things, You don't go to a football game and be like, how am I with me? That's not what people are asking about when they're going into a football game, generally speaking. But I think there's also this comfort in the group that gives over. It's almost like if the whole stadium is crushed and sad, then it's not just me. But I really think it comes down to the focus on what other people think and what they're going to do.
Interesting. Very interesting. It's crazy how you could go to a game and someone breaks a record and your player just broke a record. You share 2 tears with your boy. But you won't cry about the fact that you're probably getting divorced.
No, listen, it's all about it. I think it's about, again, perception. And also, I think emotion in sports allows us to expel other emotions that aren't related to the game.
Yeah.
And because look, I have a very close family member who I love to death, and one of the toughest as nails guys you'll ever meet in your life. Okay, and I've only seen him cry twice. All right, and that was one when his mom passed, and in 1994 when John Starks went 2 for 18, and the Knicks lost. So, but I think that the emotions that came out were a culmination of everything that he was feeling, and he finally had a vent. And that's what I think sports venues and hanging out with your buddies. Yeah, we could have better conversations, but at least it gives us an opportunity to vent as a group, as just let it out. Let out stress, let out rage, let out everything in an area where no one's going to think twice about it, and then you go back to repressing it until next Sunday. You know what I'm saying? But it shouldn't be that way. But right. That's kind of what I think we should. We do it in concerts too. Dan, you mentioned this. We were talking about this yesterday. It's not just sporting events. Guys go to concerts all the time, and they show emotion. And if they're a Billy Joel fan, they cry when Piano Man comes on, and they're okay with that. Why is it okay there?
I think again though, it's about this gateway to emotion, whether it's up or it's down. So often it is down. We're not going to let in that emotion. When you go into a sporting event, maybe you're not expecting to cry, but you are expecting to get emotional. It's just totally open. It's open season for that. We know we're going in and we're all in that same place. There's something about being all in the same place also that I think does play a big role, as I've been saying. But I think
strength in numbers, right?
Absolutely.
I feel like you're not worried about what's going on around you because everybody's feeling the same emotion.
But I'll tell you, I mean, people are most afraid of showing emotion at a time when other people would not. That is when they're like, "Oh my God."
When they're alone, or it's an intimate setting, or it's just 2-3 guys, they're not gonna do it then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's different. I wonder if guys go to a game and someone hits a home run, everybody starts crying, and they cry for the home run and the shit that they go holding on. And oh my God, I just love that home run so much. Like, dude, why are you still crying? It's 2 hours. I'm like, oh my God, that home run. I'm like, no, that's you holding on all these damn tears. Like, okay, I'll share this with you guys, and this personal. And I had a moment with my father last year. My mom passed away. I felt like that was the deal. Look at my eyes. The minute I mention her name, my eyes get watery. But I felt like that was the moment for me where I was like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care I don't care if I cry. I don't care if I cry. I'm not gonna hide my emotions. I'm not saying that I'm gonna go around crying in front of people, but I'm not gonna hide my emotions. And in June, my mom passed away in April, and in June I went to New York and I saw my family for the first time because during COVID we couldn't see each other. So it's like this was the first time we together. And like I said, I seen my father cry when my grandmother died. I saw him cry like a baby. So my father cried 2 times. I saw my father cry when my grandmother passed away, and I got locked up when I was 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And my father had to go to the precinct to get me, and they didn't let me go. And I told them that they weren't gonna let me go because they had too many charges for something I didn't do. Of course, people never say that.
For real,
I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I got locked up at 15, and my father went to the precinct. And the minute he walked into the room, I got up and I gave him a kiss. Right? I gave him a hug and a kiss. And the cop was like, whoa. the cop was like, dude, I gotta be honest. You know, I see a lot of parents coming here for the kids, and I never see the respect. And I was like, dude, I always kiss my father. To this day, my father walk in this room right now, and I'll get up, I give him a kiss out of respect. So when they told him that they weren't gonna let me go, my father cried in front of me, dude. He cried to the point that he made me cry, but he was crying for me. I felt like I was his father, and he was the son, and he was crying because he didn't want to leave me in jail. He cried so much that he made me cry, and the cop cried. It was incredible. After that, I felt like I got special treatment from the cops. They were like, don't worry, we'll take care of him. I was only 15, you know? So they were like, we'll take care of him. But those are the 2 times that I saw my father cry. And then after my mom passed, I went to New York, and we were at my sister's house. We were driving to my brother's, just him and I in a car. And he started talking about mom, and he started crying. Like I could see him crying, you know, and I held his hand as I'm driving, and I'm crying. You know, and I'm crying, like tears are coming down my face as he's talking to me. And he looked over at me. He said, why are you crying? Like he was shocked. Like, what do you mean why I'm crying? I'm crying because you're crying, you know? But it was a moment that, like, I guess I opened his eyes as well, where he doesn't have to feel embarrassed about letting tears out. Dude, this is the reason we are all here today right now, because we want to bring awareness. There's no reason for you to hide stuff like this. It makes you feel better.
Wow.
The story in the jail that I didn't know that at Edgar 15. You were probably one of the kids that would have robbed me in high school. So basically, you're telling us your dad only cried twice, and I just mentioned a family member that I had that only cried twice, and I'm starting to think that maybe we're brothers. Maybe there's something we didn't know.
Maybe
no,
he cried.
You're about to cry for the 3rd time.
I do have a question for Dr. Dan about the holding it in part. And by the way, that story with your pops was amazing. You got me like.
Thank you. I'm over here crying, bro. I'm over here crying.
You got me verklempt.
Haven't cried like this since episode 5.
Oh, stop, man! Don't you make me cry. Dan, the physical effects of holding emotions in. I know. We're real big on talking about the psychological damage, the emotional damage you could do by holding it in. Why don't talk about a little bit what it could do to your body, what it could do to your health, because I think those are tangible things that people will understand if you talk about a little more than just the emotional or psychological damage.
Yeah, I mean, as you guys know, and anybody who has watched me on things, I talk about the fact that your psychology really affects your physical emotion. It's interesting because as I was thinking about Edgar's story, and this is a response to Eric's question as well, but Edgar's story to me made me think about the fact that in a lot of ways, crying, showing that open crying together, it leads to connection. You know, anger tends to separate, but the crying together tends to bring the people together. So I think there is something about us not wanting to or feeling worried, will we try to connect and then the other person won't be there. Now, when it comes to the physicality of that, if you are holding in your tears the whole time, in a way, you're holding yourself back from connection. And I will tell you, there's something when babies are born, if they don't get the physical love that they need, the physical care that they need, actually more than physical, if they don't get the emotional care that they need, there's something called Anaclitic Depression, and it's where the babies actually start to physically waste away. They can actually die from this. People in orphanages who got physical care but no emotional care, some of those babies died. So we're not talking about something small.
Wow.
You can develop major issues. You can develop heart disease. You can develop, I do think that this is, I wouldn't say this is what causes cancer, but I do think that it is a major risk for autoimmune issues. This is a big deal. I mean, it's one of the reasons we do this show is we know what a big deal it is to hold these things in. It's actually killing people. It's preventing them from connecting. Meanwhile, there are studies that show that if people go to a doctor and they're having health issues and the doctor prescribes finding a friend, they will do better in their lives. If they actually have a friend, it's more of a protective factor than not smoking. To have a friend.
Wow. How do you write a prescription for a friend? Would be, all right, you want somebody that about 5'7", $140?
They don't do the work for you. They just tell you.
And then you got to go to the pharmacist, and they're just like a long line of people.
You pick your friend.
We need a friend.
Dr. Dan, would you say that holding back all those emotions as a man, will you say that it would just bring out more anger? So
yes.
It will be easier for them to snap in an angry situation because
Exactly.
they know how to show that emotion. Why is it so easy for us to show anger and show manhood, but we can't show the fact that we cry or that we're sad or that, whatever other emotions we're going through?
I can't remember what it was you said, Edgar, earlier in the episode, but it brought to mind the fact that I think it was when you were kind of acting out the guy who's sad and then he starts getting angry. I think anger covers over the vulnerability. It's like anger is emotion, but it's emotion that's not asking for connection. It's actually asking for separation. We have such a hard time asking for connection. And I do think it's kind of drilled into us as boys. Don't ask for connection. That's weak. It'll get teased or whatever. And one of the things I love about this show is we're working to reverse that. We're working to say, no. All emotions, we all have all the emotions. And it's much better to go ahead and ask for the connection. And in fact, as we talk about it, we all want that connection. And that's part of being a sports fan. You walk into a place, you're connected with total strangers. You want the same thing. That's not something that you have all the time. You walk into a restaurant.
You don't have it most of the time. Actually, right. That's the thing. It's like, but I think we need to get to the point where. Well, first of all, Edgar, I wanted to ask you, what were you locked up for? I'm curious. You didn't. Well, listen, what are you laughing about? I didn't arrest you. I just want to know.
That's the Latino and Eric, Dr. Dan. We were very nosy.
No, but Dan, you didn't want to ask him. School. Come on, seriously.
It was.
I naturally would want to know, but yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you guys. I don't care. I was 15. It was. My record was sealed and dropped. I mean,
until now,
I got charged with first and second degree robbery and first and second degree assault. So they charged me with 4 charges. They said I robbed the kid after school, and there was no way in hell I could have done it because I was in detention for getting in trouble for writing graffiti in school. So which is actually crazy, right?
My alibi was a different crime.
I got locked up.
I didn't do it, man. I was in detention.
I had a little, I went to art design in New York City, so I was like into graffiti, and then I went on a little graffiti spree in the school, and they caught me. And the same day, the dean was like, "I'll see you on Monday," and I was like, "Oh my God!" So Monday to determine whether to suspend me or not. And that same Friday, I got locked up. So I got locked up. My father bailed me out. Dude, it was like $2,500 bail, and back then I thought I was in a rotting jail. When I heard the judge say $2,500, it's like, oh my God, I'm doing life. My dad don't have $2,500. And I heard my uncle's voice. He goes, "We got it." And I was like, oh shit. And they bailed me out. So here I come out of jail, and then on Monday I have to tell them that I'm getting suspended for writing graffiti in school. So it was he had to get a lawyer, and we had to go to court, over 10 times, appear in court and fight this because they arrested a whole bunch of other kids. And the fact that I got in trouble for writing graffiti and I was in the dean's office while the crime occurred, that's what got me out of it.
That saved you. Wow.
That saved my ass.
It's a great alibi.
Wow. The moral of the story, kids, make sure you commit a misdemeanor so you can get away with the felony. That's
exactly.
really
don't
today's lesson.
commit another felony. Don't be like, I couldn't have robbed anybody. I was busy murdering somebody.
But let me tell you something. I tell people this, man. We got to learn from everything that happens to us. If we don't learn, if something happens to us and we repeat the same mistake, it's like we got to learn. And I told myself, and I was 15 when this happened, and I was a juvenile, and there was another kid that was 15, so they had both of us in the same cell. So I was never alone the whole time. They had both of us in the same cell. And I remember telling myself in there, I never want to go through this again. At 15. And thank God, to this day, before I do anything stupid or think about doing anything stupid, I think about all the consequences. I see life as a game of chess. If I do this, what's going to happen? What moves are going to come my way? And that experience got me to where I'm at right now, that I could say I'm a 45-year-old man with a clean record, you know?
But you know, also the decision that you made there was an act of self-love. And I think that that kind of fits with what Eric's question was about the physical body. Like holding an emotions is that problematic for us, which it is, we need to start choosing self-love. We need to start valuing ourselves and to recognize that one of the ways that we can value ourselves is to let emotions out. I do think that's one of the healthier parts of sports. I think it's funny that we need to do it in a kind of veiled way. I think we need to start doing it in more ways. But guys, let's also shift gears here for a sec, because Eric, you brought some research as you usually do.
Oh yeah.
I want to hear what you have for us today.
I got some interesting scientific facts for you guys, folks. So they did a study on the emotional expressiveness between men and women. So they did a study, and they showed men and women videos that were designed to elicit an emotional response. It was either surprise, horror, anger, sadness, pleasure, disgust, or amusement. So that's the spectrum of emotions that these videos were designed to elicit. And the interesting part is that men, believe it or not, it's really fascinating. They have more intense emotional experiences, but women have higher emotions expressively. So meaning our emotional responses are stronger than the women. But we fall far behind in our ability to express it. And they did the science based on how the heart rate reacted to the videos. And men's heart rates went higher than women's heart rates in every category, meaning we were feeling the emotion more. But yet in every case, we fell short of expressing it better than women did. So
do you think, I'm sorry, Dr. Dan, do you think that's because we were hiding it? Because we're hiding it more? Because we're holding it back?
Well, here's what I think about it. I don't know if I'm right about this. I have to think about it. But I think that when you're having a more extreme emotion, you are less likely to show it in a way, because at some level we know that's dangerous. You know, it's like if you're more angry than someone else, something dangerous can come from that. If you are sadder about it, maybe that's because we expect there to be judgment or something. But I think the stronger the emotion, in a way, the more likely it is that you might decide, okay, I'm going to hide that. It's kind of like, I mean, we've talked about, watching like a tearjerker. And I don't mind tearing up, but I do kind of, I'm not saying I'm proud of this. I'm just saying it's true. I kind of will hold it back if I think I'm really going to like lose it. I don't want to do that somehow. So it's really interesting that Eric's saying that men had this higher level of emotion, but less expression. In a way that makes sense to me.
Well, because we don't know how to express it. And I think that's why women their emotional experience isn't as intense, because they have a better understanding of what they're feeling, and that allows them to beat us at expressing it. We don't know, or we haven't been taught to know, or we don't want to know for whatever reason. So it'll be a more emotional response, because sometimes we don't even understand what we're feeling, because we haven't been allowing ourselves to feel these things. I think until we get to the same level of expressiveness as women do in this study, then we're going to keep holding things back, and we're going to keep getting over emotional about things, because we're letting our emotions control us instead of trying to control our emotions.
I also think we have to accept that there's going to be times where our intellect has to catch up to evolution, because there are ways in which we are. I do think that men are kind of biologically have a predisposition to not show that vulnerability in a way. I would think that that's kind of evolutionarily true. What we have to realize is we're not in that situation anymore. Most of us are not being chased by lions all the time. Like, we don't have to establish the, dominance in the hierarchy of the tribe anymore. It's just not what we have to do anymore. But I think there is something important. I just want to acknowledge it, where we have it a little bit in our DNA. And I think this study shows that we have all this emotion, but I don't think it's just that we haven't been taught it. I also don't think it's that we are inherently not capable of it. I think that there is a biological brakes that are being put on regularly that we have to learn to get past. I also think there's a huge amount in society that reinforces that, and that has become a major problem. And in a way, I think we have become confused, as if the evolutionary setup needs to be explained in other terms. Like, let's explain it as, oh, that shouldn't happen, or that's not right. I just think we have an impulse about it, but we need to recognize that impulse does not need to be there anymore. And there's a better way.
It's like if you go to the next event you guys go to with your boys, watching a game, baseball game, whatever, I don't know, just start crying. Just start crying.
Well, you
Right
know,
away.
now the irony is, that, quite honestly, most of the time, if I'm hanging out with my boys watching the game, 9 times out of 10, we're talking about stuff other than the game. Now, if we're in a bar or something and it's a big collective, then that's different. But if I'm here with just my close boys, 9 times out of 10, we're not talking about the game or the athlete. We're really just catching up, because it's just, women have brunch, men have sports. You know what I mean? They got things that they can congregate and be around each other. So, if I'm it's Super Bowl, nobody talks any emotions, okay? I'm sorry. Super Bowl is no emotion involved unless something happened to you. All right, let's just establish that right now. There's certain games, no. But on an average everyday Sunday game, I'm usually talking about stuff beyond sports. Dr. Dan, you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking from an evolutionary standpoint. I don't know why this is on my mind so much lately, but I think we also have a drive to connect. We really do. So I think when we're sitting at these games, it's kind of like, have you noticed that when you're driving, you can talk to people in a different way because your eyes are on something else. We're relaxed. When you're sitting face to face at a table and you're like, okay, let's talk, it's a totally different vibe. But if you're in a car, you might
you
talk
could ignore
more.
them. You could look. I'm looking at the road.
Exactly.
I don't have to look at you. I can listen to you.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about at the beginning with Eric and the camera. You don't want to always be staring straight into it.
Well, listen, I don't do this anymore. This is the problem, all right? But yeah, I look at the camera as a window to both of your souls. Don't you know this by now? I actually have 2 little small passport photos of you right next to the camera. So I'm looking both of you dead in the eye with your headshots. And Edgar,
That's right.
change your headshot. It's old. It's an old headshot, Edgar. All right? Stop it.
I think that this one of the many reasons on how to get this, to become better is what we're doing right here, opening this platform where letting men know that it's okay. So if it's okay for you to go to a sports event and show your emotions, it's like we've said this before in numerous episodes. For the viewers and listeners, it's not for you to open up in the awkward moment. You're not going to open up in a party and say this, but you always got to find that scenario where it's intimate enough for you to be born, for you to show those emotions. And that's what we got to do. If we could go to a game and do that, then, make a date with your boy and maybe go to dinner and have dinner and be like, yo, how you been? How you doing? Maybe like you said, Dr. Dan, maybe you showing your emotions with someone else, maybe that person will be like, okay, maybe I'm not doing it for you to share something with me, but maybe the fact that you listened to me, you saw how good it made me feel and how I react from it, then hopefully you could move forward and do it yourself,
Yeah, I think one way that we could represent this that could be really useful to people just to think about is that it's really not about whether you're going to show your emotions or not. It's more about, okay, what's the framework of showing the emotions at this moment. At a sporting event, it's like there really is there's a kind of greater openness for guys about this. And maybe at other times, like you're at a dinner with 2 of your friends, you're not going to do it that way, but that doesn't mean you have to shut it off entirely. I actually think what we need to do is start thinking about how do we show emotions at different times, not whether to show emotion.
Allow ourselves to feel them first. You know what I mean? I think
That's right.
The biggest hurdle is allowing yourself to feel it first. Figure out how to express it as you go, but it's the suppression of emotion and forcing yourself to be emotionless. I think That's the first hurdle that we got to get over as guys. Is you got to feel what you feel. Feel it honestly. Don't hold nothing back. And then, you'll learn healthy ways to express it. Anger is not a healthy way to express emotion. There are healthy ways to do it. Dr. Dan, expressing emotions in an unhealthy way is just as damaging, right, as holding emotions back, right?
It definitely is. And actually, the distinction I make, I mean, look, anger can have a healthy component to it, but it tends to be destructive and it tends to separate. I want to always be encouraging, because I think this is emotional health. I want to express emotions in ways that bring people together. Even if you're angry, you can still do it in a healthier way. You can be like, listen, especially if you recognize it this way. A lot of times what's underneath anger is hurt. Actually, I'm hurt. I don't want to. A lot of guys don't want to say it that way. Mm-hmm. They want to say, I'm angry. I'm pissed at you for this, and you did this and that. And we think that's expressing emotion. I don't think it actually is. Anger actually is a defense against other emotions. We have anger. It's true, but it doesn't tend to be a pure emotion. The pure emotion tends to be disappointment or hurt or longing for something. Much more personal things than anger. We use anger to cover over. It's almost like we use it as an excuse to say, "Oh yeah, look, I have emotion. Look, I have emotion." But actually, usually that's covering over what's really going on.
Yeah. Listen, as a Jet fan, all my anger is just hiding my disappointment, my disillusionment, my borderline psychotic depression, and my suicidal ideations of watching them play every week.
The reason that's funny is it's almost completely true.
It's not even almost true. Yeah, the New York Jets motto is the New York Jets. We're not Jacksonville. That's it. That's our slogan.
Dr. Dan, but talking about what you just said, I feel like I used to be that person. Like when I used to get angry, I don't know if anyone else could relate, but I used to get angry, and anger used to like bring tears to my face. And I used to tell people like, yo, I'm just so mad that I cry. And it was just, and it makes example what you just explained right there. It hit it on the spot, because that was my way. Like somebody will be angry and they'll be like, Tia, why are you crying? Because I'm so mad. No, dude, what's really bothering you? Why are you crying? And just to all the viewers and listeners, man, I mean, it makes you feel good, whether you feel that, whether you feel like you gotta let something go. I can't even imagine holding it in like now. I'll tell you, if I have to do it, I'll lock myself in a room. I know men who leave the household and just take a little drive and let tears come on and then come home and then be that person again. Like, no, and that's hiding. Find someone that you could do it. I'm not saying that, if you feel like crying, lock yourself in a room. Yeah, go do it. Go cry. Go look at yourself in the mirror so you can look and see how you cry before you go up to someone else. But that's the worst thing that we're doing. That's how we're hurting each other. That's how we're not moving forward, because we're holding things in. There's no reason to hold these things in. It gets me so mad that for every guy out there, that's the way they think. You know what I'm saying? And it sucks, man. And it sucks. And we need to be better men and find one person, even if it's just one person that can make you feel good, and then you can share, and then hopefully spread that. And that's what we're doing here. The three of us got together, and eventually the people viewing and listening could do something or share something that make them feel better. And then that person pays it forward. Before you know it, we could change this world that we're living in, where men are not supposed to show their emotions because it's a sign of weakness.
Listen, I think
I left you guys both shocked with that. I was like some Jerry Springer shit.
No,
and now a final thought.
What that actually was, that was that was like a mic drop. I mean, it was like we were both like, that's the end of the episode.
What can I add to that except you look great today?
Thank you. No, but it's true, man. I don't understand. I really don't understand why is it so hard for us as men to
listen.
what we feel.
The only thing we need to understand is that it needs to change, and we're taking steps to make that change. Mm-hmm. And it is getting better. It has improved. Guys are getting more open. The younger generation is definitely getting it more than our generation did. We just have to be consistent, keep the message going, and just keep, putting the message out there that it's okay to own your emotions as a guy. You don't have to hold it in. You're not going to get judged for it. And whoever's judging you for it is just projecting their own weaknesses on you. And don't let them do that, because they're just upset because they're not emotionally whole. They're emotionally compromised. They're upset that you're happy. They don't understand how you can do it, so they're more upset at that. Don't let it get
they're threatened by you. Yeah.
The people that really care about you, even in the slightest way, or even have a slight soul, will support you in your emotions, even if they don't understand them.
Yep.
There's another mic drop for you.
There you go. Now it's Dr. Dan's mic drop moment. Here you go.
No, I'm not even gonna do it. You guys both gave some really good ones. I said some good stuff along the way.
You got some great stuff today, Doctor. This was a good conversation. I think we'll definitely talk about this topic again, moving forward, because I felt like there's a lot we didn't even get to.
I know this hour just like flew by. But I think before we go, Eric, I wanna do a quick brotherly love before we go. Because you had said a little brotherly love, and and let's just get into that real quick and explain the segment to people, and then we could do that and then wrap it up.
Okay. So we're going to talk about my Wilma Flores. Now this is kind of an old story, but I wanted to bring it up because it really is about breaking the mold moment and expressing your emotions. So Wilma Flores is a utility infielder in Major League Baseball. Played for the San Francisco Giants this past season. But in 2015, I know it was a long time ago, but this story really stuck with me. He found out in the middle of a game he was being traded to the Milwaukee Brewers, I believe, for Carlos Gonzalez. It was a talented outfielder. So when Wilmer found out he was being traded, he started openly crying on the field. I mean, sobbing. Eyes just pouring with emotion. That emotion set off a domino effect over the entire stadium. The entire stadium was crying, clapping with him, saying, because he got drafted since he was a 16-year-old kid, and he was 23 at the time. So from 16 to 23, this club was his entire life, and he thought he was going to spend his whole life there. It turns out the trade fell through, and it didn't. So he ended up staying with the team. The next game, the stadium went nuts when he got on the field. They went so crazy. He cried again, okay? And not only that, he hit a base hit that day. The reason why I want to give him some brotherly love is that I've seen athletes all the time get traded. And all they do is shake people's hands and say goodbye to the clubhouse guys because they know it's a business and they just got to move on to the next spot. This guy let his heart go on his sleeve and said, no, I thought these people were my family, and just openly wept and touched an entire city, or at least an entire city of Mets fans. And he'll always be near and dear to us, even though he wasn't a fantastic player. The fact that he loved us so much and he felt that bad about leaving us and was willing to express it meant the world to me. And I think if an athlete can express that type of emotion in the middle of a ball game, in front of the strangers all around the stadium and national television, I think it should be okay for guys to show their emotions in their private lives.
Mm-hmm. I think it does hit the nail on the head on a particular thing, and we can wrap up on this. But the fact that he cared back, the fans want to feel like the people who they're rooting for are rooting for them too, and that was a moment where I think you did feel that. Yeah. So. Definitely a shout out to Wilma Flores. I also want to say anybody who makes it in Major League Baseball, they're a hell of a player.
Yes, he was just a better player for other teams, which is how it works for the Mets and the Jets. Right. So,
well, guys, this has been a pleasure as always. Like I love that we can sit down and talk about virtually any topic, and I don't ever. It's like I don't want to stop talking to you guys.
I feel like I learned something every week, Dr. Dan. Some of the stuff you said about the body-mind stuff was amazing. And the fact that Edgar tried to rob me in high school just came out on national television is also.
But it couldn't have been him because he was
in detention.
Acts of graffiti.
Sure he was. No, but I love this. This is the highlight of my week. It's great.
All right, guys. Well, this is awesome. I'll take us out as usual, but looking forward to more conversations with you guys. I learned things from you guys it's just fantastic.
Oh, and don't
And-
forget to comment. Who should go first after the intro? Is it Dr. Dan
That's
or
right.
Eric Nieves? Don't vote us off the show. Just vote who goes first.
And don't be worried. Eric and I, we can handle it. We'll
Absolutely.
let out our tears if we need to. It's
Yes,
fine.
I will do a Wilma Flores if I have to.
I know that we're getting better as a group and as men because our production meetings are getting smaller and shorter.
That's right.
That's how
Because you
I
keep
know
arriving
that-
late. That's why.
Shut up. Because I'm a Latino, right? I'm sorry. I'm a Latino.
We got there on time. They be
And
the
then
regular
they be like,
time, but
"Yo, Edgar, where you at?" I'm like,
we
"Oh,
got
shit."
bedtime, bro. You know, Dan got kids, man.
No, but it's true. It's how remember in the beginning when we first started, we were going crazy and trying to break segments down. Now we'll have a production meeting. What we gonna talk about? Emotions, how men hide it, how they and boom, and then we just got here and we'll do an hour on it. So it's great. Like Eric, I learned a lot from you, Dr. Dan, and both you guys, man. I wish we could hang out all the fucking time and get to know each other better. And this is just an example for every guy out there, man. Yo, dude, just make sure you take advantage of your friends in a good way. You know what I'm saying? If you have a good friend that you know that will listen to you, don't hesitate, dude. Just talk,
Word.
man. Take advantage of your friendship and become better men. And that's what we're here to do. So now you could take us out, Dr. Dan.
All right. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below. We'll get back to you personally.
Yeah,
Brothers in Arms. Primordial.
There it is.
Hilarious. Yo, I can't believe you stuck with that damn scene.